When Malcolm Gladwell presented NPR's Throughline podcast with a Peabody Award, he praised it for its historical and moral clarity. On Throughline, we take you back in time to the origins of what's in the news, like presidential power, aging, and evangelicalism. Time travel with us every week on the Throughline podcast from NPR.
Hello and welcome to Car Talk from National Public Radio with us, Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers, and we're broadcasting this week from the Department of Vast Right and Left-Wing Conspiracies.
If there ever was
Plaza. Now, my brother thought that the Chrysler lawyers were vicious.
Yeah.
Wait till he sees the AARP SWAT team that drops down on his house after this little rant. So go ahead.
No, well,
Dig yourself a hole.
In our
You don't mind if I
never-ending
disassociate myself?
in our never-ending pursuit of alienating everybody that we know. Here's the issue I want to bring up.
Go ahead, man. I'm ready.
Is it not perfectly clear to anyone who thinks about it that at some age, whatever that number may be, some age,
Well, it might not be a number.
people become incompetent at driving? I mean, is that not as clear as the big nose on your face? I mean, that's so clear.
Excuse me?
I mean, it's completely obvious, and everyone knows that at some age, people do not have the physical capabilities, the mental capabilities to drive anymore, and they're going to kill people. In fact, the fatality rate for people over 75 is almost as high as it is for 16-year-old testosterone-poisoned teenage boys.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
No, that's from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety statistics.
Really?
The point is that when you get to be a certain age, and I would suggest that like 75 is a reasonable age, we're not saying that you shouldn't drive. All we're saying is, doesn't it make sense that you should have to prove that you can drive?
So there should be like a flight simulator
Exactly.
at the DMV. You sit behind the wheel, and they have a kid with a bouncing ball run out in front of you.
If nothing else, you should have to take the driver's test. Now, my question is, why doesn't a single state in these here United States have such a rule? Why?
Because there are old
like
people
me,
living in every state.
Not only that,
and they vote.
Not only do they vote, but they have nothing else to do. So when voting day comes, it's whoopee, let's go vote.
And they all drive to the polls.
That's right. Where everyone who's 25 and 30 years old, what are they doing? They're out having a party. Vote for what? Those jerks? They don't vote. The old people vote, and therefore the politicians will do nothing to get the old folks ticked off at them. Therefore, they are not doing the right thing. They are doing the political thing. And I am imploring all you sleazeball politicians out there to shape up and do the right thing. Introduce into your state legislature something that says we can't go on like this. And if you go to our website, cartalk.msn.com, you'll see a little note that I wrote about this, a little rant, you might say, and a little letter that you might want to send to your congressman or representative. These are the state guys, because these are all state laws. And thanks to the power of the World Wide Web, if I said to you, write to your congressman and tell him, your state representative, and tell him you want him to do this, would you know who to write to?
Well, not really.
Not really. But you can click on a little link we have,
Yes.
and it tells you
Who the bum is.
who the bum is, what his address is, what committees he's on, and you can send him a little note.
Well, I think we ought to start with Florida first. We can conquer Florida, then the other states ought to be a piece
They'll
of
just
cake.
fall into line. That's right.
Anyway.
Dade County. We'll go right there first.
If you want to talk to us, the number is 1-888-CAR-TALK. That's 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Lou. I'm in New York City.
What's up, Lou?
Well, I'm beginning to look like a fool with all my friends, and it's driving me crazy. I've got this 1982 Mercedes.
Yeah?
The little guy, the 380 SL with the convertible top that comes off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a wonderful car. And the only problem is that when you drive onto the road and you make a right turn, the last thing you did was make a right turn when you drive on the road. Everything's fine. But if the last thing you did was make a left turn to get onto the highway, the thing pulls to the left. So I end up, when I get onto the highway and it's not working right, I'll pull off at the next exit or gas station or whatever and turn the car and make a U-turn and make a crank and make sure that I zip it around to the right to get back on the highway. And anybody that's with me says, "What are you doing and why?" And it's, it's beginning to affect policemen and everything else out there. And I've had this thing in the shop. They've changed everything.
Really? So do you want advice about how to cope with being a fool in front of your friends, or you want advice on, because we're well-versed in that.
We can do either.
No, I really want to get this fixed because summer is coming, and this is a convertible, and I can take the hardtop off,
Yeah.
and I can drive down the road in my convertible car, except that I would like it to drive correctly.
So tell us what they've replaced, so I don't go ahead and...
Well, they replaced the tie rod in.
Tie rods.
Sure.
Yeah.
They replaced there's 6 bushings. They're big things about the size of my fist that connect the carriage that the front end is connected to the rest of the car.
Got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
They replaced all those.
That was good. That was good.
And who's done this? Has this been your authorized Mercedes agency?
Well, no. There's no authorized Mercedes repair.
Oh, you're going to like
Mercedes.
Mustafa's Mercedes.
Right.
Okay.
The mechanic in my local garage used to work for Mercedes, and I like him and I trust him, and he knows what he's doing. But this is not working.
And if you come onto a road by taking a left turn to get onto it,
Then it pulls to the left forever.
So,
Correct.
and the only way you can undo this is by turning around to the right.
Right.
Well, I know where the problem is, although I don't know.
well, I know what the problem is too, but I can't explain why this happens.
Nobody seems to be.
Well, you don't have to explain it.
I can't.
You guys know.
All right.
We can tell you what to do to fix it, but that's not enough for us. We
It'll
have
be
to,
enough for Lou.
It might be enough for you, Lou, but until we can understand and explain, we're not going to tell you.
Well, I can't say that I can remember what kind of steering gear an 82 Mercedes 380 SL
Let's
has.
assume.
Correct opinion.
I'm not so sure of that.
Really?
I'm not so sure of that. It may have a steering box.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter, because if you have rack and pinion, that's where the problem is.
The problem is in the rack. And I think you do have rack and pinion, and I think you need a rack. That's my opinion.
Well, either that or the rack needs to be balanced.
A rack and opinion.
It's your opinion about the rack. It's possible that the rack is going out of balance, and somehow or another, in other words, there's too much pressure on one side versus the other, and that's why it pulls to the left. And it's possible that the rack can be balanced. There may be balancing valves, and that may, or you may need to replace the rack. That's assuming that it has a rack. On the other hand, you may have a steering box with something called recirculating balls, and it's possible that one of the balls is getting stuck.
Yeah.
But in either case, replacing what's called the steering gear will solve the problem. Of course, this is like $1,000 repair.
Yes, it is. It's quite a hunk.
If it's a steering box, it might be a little bit less expensive than a rack, but count on $1,000.
Okay, I'm counting on it. I'm looking forward to it.
Good
See you,
luck,
Lou.
Lou.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 1-888-CAR-TALK. That's 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Andrea from Durham, North Carolina.
Andrea, not Andrea.
No, it's Andrea.
That's the Italian pronunciation.
Well, that's very good. You're right.
Yeah.
And where
I'm
are you
not
from?
Italian. I'm from Durham, North Carolina.
Durham.
Yep.
So how did you adopt this European pronunciation for your name?
It was my mother's idea, who's actually from Queens, and she named me after a childhood friend who is Italian.
Oh,
Uh-huh. There we go.
yeah, the Andrea Adoria.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, my husband and I have just had a little baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Boy or girl?
A little boy,
What'd you name him?
Alex.
Alex?
It's a great name.
Well, thank you. Well, anyway, we're buying this minivan, we've decided.
Yeah.
And we want to buy a Toyota Sienna. But we're kind of having this argument about whether to buy it now or buy it in a few months, because we're actually moving about 2,000 miles away in Texas in a few months. And so the question is, I have always heard that you never want to drive a new car over 55 miles an hour in the first 1,000 miles. And my husband thinks that this is just an old wives' tale and that we should just go ahead and get the car and it won't do anything to it.
Well, your husband's wrong.
Uh-huh.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah, he's wrong. If you believe all the owner's manuals printed anywhere in the world, your husband's wrong.
Really?
Yeah, because when you go buy this thing, you'll look in the owner's manual and you'll see it will tell you for the first 1,000 or whatever number of miles, it's something between 500 and 1,500 usually. It'll tell you don't drive over 55 miles an hour and don't drive at a sustained any speed, but vary it up and down.
Vary it up and down?
Yeah.
How's that possible, I wonder?
Well, you can't go on the highway, obviously.
Well, you can. You can bring it up to 55 and then stay in the right lane and coast back down to 40.
Or put on your hat and put it in the left lane and go and bring it down to 40. And put on your left blinker.
And leave the seatbelt buckle hanging outside and drag it on the pavement. And wear a hat.
Yeah, how long do we have to do this?
1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
Well, see, there are lots of issues involved here. One is the one you bring up, the technical issue. And let's assume that you don't want to get it and get right on the highway and drive 2,000 miles as soon as you buy the thing. Let's assume that the book is right, because even if the book is wrong,
it can hurt.
If something goes wrong with the engine and you go back to the dealer, you will not be able in good conscience to say to them, I did everything the book says, therefore you owe me a new engine.
No, you'll have to lie.
You'll have to lie. That will change everything if you start to lie. So it's better to not have to lie. So let's assume that you will not do that. Then the issue becomes, would you rather buy the vehicle in Durham, North Carolina, or in Texas?
Right.
And how are you going to get to Texas?
Well, we have our old cars, I guess. We can do that. We were thinking we'd love to have the minivan, though, if it didn't make any difference. But...
Well, it does make a difference. Plus, when you move to Texas, you'll have to find yourself a dealer to bring the car to. Whereas if you buy it there, they'll be much nicer to you because you will have bought it there.
Whereabouts in Texas are you moving to?
El Paso.
What are you going to be doing in El Paso?
Well, we're moving
Secret
there for my
stuff.
husband's job.
Is he in the smuggling business? Just asking.
He runs guns, yeah. Well, he's something to do with the government, isn't it?
No, he's a physician.
A physician. That's what he tells you.
That's what he tells me. I think he's a drug runner, though. Well, can I ask one more argument between us, whether it's an old wives' tale or
Of
not?
course.
Yeah, sure.
What do you guys think about driving a car, accelerating real fast and braking real fast and taking the turns hard and all that? Does that shorten the life of a
Nothing
car?
wrecks a car faster than the four things you just described.
You're joking.
No.
No, absolutely right. Wait, is that how he drives or that how you drive?
That's how he drives, in my opinion.
Yeah. No,
Rapid acceleration, rapid deceleration, hard cornering, and what else? I forgot. Those three things.
Those three things. No, that's the truth. I mean, that's what wrecks a car.
Okay.
It wrecks not only the engine, but the transmission. It wrecks the
Front end, the suspension, everything gets worn out when you drive that way.
All right.
You're absolutely right on both counts. But Andrea, don't spring both of these on him at once.
No, space them a little
This
bit.
man is a doctor. He needs to have some self-respect left. He's got to treat patients who are ill. And if you destroy his self-esteem by pouncing on him with both of these at one time, the man will become a vegetable.
Okay.
So let's cool it.
Be gentle.
Slow. I'll be gentle.
Okay.
Thanks
a
you very
lot.
much.
Thanks for
See
calling.
ya, Andrea.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, don't go anywhere because we've got a lot more calls. Well, a few anyway. And the puzzler answer coming up right after this.
This message comes from Wise, the app for doing things in other currencies. With Wise, you can send, spend, or receive money across borders, all at a fair exchange rate. No markups or hidden fees. Join millions of customers and visit wise.com. T's and C's apply.
Imagine, if you will, a show from NPR that's not like NPR. A show that focuses not on the important, but the stupid, which features stories about people smuggling animals in their pants, incompetent criminals, and ridiculous science studies. And call it Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me because the good names were taken. Listen to NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, yes, that is what it is called, wherever you get your podcasts.
On this week's Wildcard podcast, Brett Goldstein says even though his shows Ted Lasso and Shrinking get emotional, he doesn't.
I haven't cried it yet.
I guess I thought you might be like a closet crier.
No. I mean, I write all the stuff because then I don't have to live it.
Whoa.
She's like, I got him.
I'm Rachel Martin. Brett Goldstein is on Wildcard, the show where cards control the conversation.
Having news at your fingertips is great, but sometimes you need an escape. And that's where Shortwave comes in. We're a joy-filled science podcast driven by wonder and curiosity that will get you out of your head and in touch with the world around you. Listen now to Shortwave, the science podcast from NPR.
Hi, we're back. You're listening to Car Talk with us, Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers. And as promised, here's the answer to last week's puzzler, which you so aptly...
Brilliantly described earlier.
We tried to. Yeah, you got the pieces of it. Here it is. A fellow comes into the shop the other day, and he complains that his Volvo, an older one, is misbehaving. It seems to be losing power. It sputters. It has difficulty climbing hills. And he says it's especially bad if the tank is less than half full. Ah! We said, ah! Piece of cake. It's a classic problem of the in-tank fuel pump not working.
Yeah. Of the two fuel pumps.
Right. For years and years, Volvos have had an extra pump inside the tank, a feeder pump, which pushes fuel to the main fuel pump, which is located outside the tank.
Yeah.
And that main pump sends it the rest of the way to the engine and eventually to the injectors, et cetera, et cetera. So when the in-tank pump fails, the car will still continue to run.
Because the other one is sucking it
The
up.
main pump is doing the lion's share of the work, and it'll suck the gasoline right through the broken in-tank pump and supply it to the injectors. But when the tank is low, it has difficulty doing this, and the pump will moan and groan and not supply enough pressure, et cetera.
Everyone who has taken freshman physics knows why that happens. Everyone.
Sure. Who's taken freshman physics and
passed. I left that out, didn't I?
So anyway, he says, go ahead, replace the pump for $900, see if I care. So we do it, and a week or two later, he returns and says, geez, thanks, guys, the car runs great, but my mileage is down. You must have done something. They always say that. Why do they say that? You must have done something. It's off by at least 10%. We say, how could we have done anything?
We fixed it.
Right. We fixed your damn car, and now you're complaining that we've done something. And I say, well, 10% is hard to measure, so we throw him out and tell him he's dreaming. Comes back a few weeks later and says, it's down even more. It's 15% now, and getting worse. You did something wrong. Again, we reassure him that we did nothing wrong.
Of course.
A headlock works wonders. He says, I know it had something to do with that pump you put in the tank, so we go ahead and check his emissions and the timing and everything, and there's nothing wrong. We throw him out again.
Good.
We come to realize when
I like this customer is always right policy.
when he returns for the third time
with
his brother-in-law, Bruno, that he's right. And even though we did nothing wrong, I add, we did nothing wrong putting in the new pump. We did, by putting in the new pump, make his mileage drop.
Yeah.
Well, we missed something.
Yeah.
We missed something.
Yeah.
And what we missed is that there's a piece of tubing that goes between the tank pump and the main pump.
Right.
And it had a little pinhole in it.
So the little pump inside the gas tank pumps fuel along this tube into the main pump. The main pump then pushes it the rest of the way to the engine.
Now, with the in-tank pump broken, this little pinhole did not cause gasoline to leak out because there was suction created in that tube. When we replaced the feeder pump, we created positive pressure in that line between the two pumps. And even though most of it was being sent to the injectors, just enough was leaking out through this little pinhole to cause his 12.75% drop in mileage. And so he was right, even though we didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. I mean, but that's an interesting, what if that were this brings up an issue, a legal issue. What if this were a life-threatening thing?
What if his car had burst?
What if it burst into flame and he died?
Well, he wouldn't be able to sue.
Well, what if he didn't quite die, unfortunately?
Just burned beyond recognition?
But his
memory was intact, he could call his lawyer.
He still had enough energy left to call his lawyer. Right. The thing is, are you required then to look to see that there are no little pinholes, which never, ever happen except once in a while? because you would install the pump, you'd get in the car, you'd turn the key, thing would run like a dream, and you'd say, it's running like a dream, everything's fine.
Yeah, we never saw the pinhole because it was pointing up and spraying gasoline on the underside of his car.
And you wouldn't even see
right
it.
near that hot exhaust system.
You wouldn't see Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, whose responsibility is it? Ours.
It is.
It is, unfortunately.
I don't think so.
Well, the judge thought so. Anyway, who's our winner?
The winner is James Nofi, Nofi, from Flushing, New York. And for having your correct answer chosen at random, James Nofi from Flushing, New York, from all the right answers that we got this week, you, James Nofi, will get one of our 10th anniversary Car Talk t-shirts with our current slogan, celebrating 10 years of bad car advice.
Yeah, indeed. Now, we'll have a brand new puzzler coming up in the third half of today's show. So don't touch that dial. In the meantime, we'll take your calls at 1-888-CAR-TALK. That's 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Erin. I'm calling you from Southie.
Erin.
Yep.
Erin, Southie
from
what? Southie
Southie.
Boston?
Southie, Boston, yeah.
Yes.
Gee, for those of you that haven't seen Erin, weren't you in the movie
Yeah.
Good Will Hunting?
Yeah, I was a tall, skinny English girl.
You were.
Yeah. I just use a stage name, Minnie Driver, but really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Southie is where part of that movie was filmed, if you saw that movie.
Yeah.
And there are some great things. There's the L Street Bar,
Right.
and that now is a famous place.
Right.
The once famous Tasty was also in that movie. It is now
no
gone,
more,
thanks to
right.
the Cambridge Savings Bank. and there was Erin. I mean, you were one of those people in the bar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, usually. That's
Cool.
me.
And Southie is certainly, among all the places in the world, a unique place.
It is. And for those that don't know, it's South Boston.
Right.
Right. So what's up?
Well, I drive a 1980 Chevy Impala.
Yeah.
And
That's unique right there.
Yeah,
See?
yeah.
That is a Southie car.
That is
You
a
can't
Southie.
find 10 of those in the entire state, and 8 of them are in Southie.
Yeah, it's true. The car used to be my grandfather's, and so I hang on to it out of sentimental value, kind of.
Great.
But it's 3 different colors now, and, there's all sorts of things wrong with the car, as I'm sure
Narrow
you
it
can
down to 5 or 6 questions.
Yeah, it's only a 1-hour show. I mean, give us a break.
I noticed in town, most of my driving in town, I don't, turn on my high beams at all. But when I went out to visit my parents in the country, I noticed that when I turn on my high beams, my directionals don't work.
Jeez. That's good.
When you turn the directional on, does it come on but not flash?
Yeah, it comes on, but it doesn't flash.
She's pretty good. And as soon as you go back to low beam,
It works.
well, I have a lot of theories.
I do too. I have 2.
None of them have anything to do with electricity.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Gas?
Metaphysics. No, actually,
Cold fusion?
I think I know the answer.
Okay.
Do you? Don't worry, Erin. I'm going to listen to him very carefully, and if he starts giving you a bunch of BS, I will let you know.
Okay.
Okay, I can ask you to do a little test, which would require that other devices on your car were in working order. And there may not be enough of them to do this test. I believe that the voltage output from your alternator is insufficient. That little device that goes clunk, 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 the little flasher, is very voltage sensitive. And if the voltage should drop too low, the thing won't go clunk, 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 clunk. It'll go clunk, and it won't flash.
So the high beams are using up just
The
enough
high
more
beams
energy.
using up just enough more electricity so that the alternator, which has probably got burned out diodes and has had for the last 10 or 15 years, is producing just enough. And then when you turn on the high beams, they're dropping the voltage down below the threshold level, rendering the flasher inoperative.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Though, what are the tests you wanted to do?
Well, I wanted her, instead of turning on the high beams, to turn on
Everything else
in the car.
Now, do you have a rear window defogger?
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work. See, I know that. Air conditioner?
No air conditioning.
No,
No
and if
air
it did, it
conditioner.
probably
It wouldn't work.
It
work.
probably wouldn't.
Yeah. See, we're going to run into trouble because there aren't enough things.
Yeah.
Brake lights?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
The other thing you could do is you could actually have someone test the output of the alternator.
No. Here's what you do better than that. You go to the what do you call that? The auto parts store, and you buy yourself a new flasher, which costs a couple of bucks. It may be that the one you have in there It's just so old that it's become even more sensitive to a drop in voltage.
Oh, now you're going too far. Now you're going too far.
It's only gonna cost her $2. So
Yeah.
go to the parts store, buy one, and the way you'll find the other one is you sit there with the key on, engine off, and you turn the directional on. You'll hear the thing going clunk, 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 clunk. It's under the dashboard. You crawl into the dash, and you feel around for the thing. It's a little cylindrical thing, about an inch in diameter. And when you feel it going clunk, clunk, you unplug it, and as soon as you do that, the clunk, 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 clunk will stop.
Right.
And you plug the new one in, and of course the flashing will begin, and then
You put on your high
you
beams.
turn on your high beams.
And then if it still doesn't work, then it's the alternator.
Well, no, not really. It could be.
Now, if it does turn out like you say, if it's the alternator, does that mean the alternator's on its way out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could need a voltage regulator.
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing is, is it a sign? Could it be a sign that the whole electrical system's going to go?
No.
Don't worry about it.
No. Start by buying an inexpensive flasher at the auto parts store.
Yeah.
Plug it in, and if that doesn't solve the problem, then take it into somebody. But if it isn't the alternator, then it's a bad ground.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Maybe. It could be, if you're lucky. See you, Aaron.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Good luck.
Okay, now before we get to the new puzzler, we have to take a short break.
What? You're going to consult the Oracle at Delphi again?
No, the Oracle in the men's room.
I'm with you.
The scary new movie Sinners from the director of Black Panther finds Michael B. Jordan playing twin brothers. It's got vampires, it's got great music, and it's a fun one to see with a big crowd.
This is the most excited I've been about a movie in a very long time.
We'll tell you why you should see Sinners on the biggest screen you can. Listen to the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast from NPR.
I'm Jesse Thorne. This week on Bullseye, Fat Joe on being a late middle-aged rapper with an 18-year-old daughter.
She's really looking at me like I'm a dinosaur. So she's like, yo, Dad, come on now. You going where? Stop. Just stay home, watch Jeopardy.
That's on the next Bullseye from MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Aviv Regev is the co-founder of the Human Cell Atlas. It's a huge leap in understanding how human cells work. She says it's like upgrading from a 15th century map of the world to Google Maps.
If I want to develop a medicine that would only go to the place where something is broken, I need to know how to get there.
The new wave of biotechnology. That's on the TED Radio Hour podcast from NPR.
At Planet Money, we'll take you from a race to make rum in the Caribbean.
Our rum, from a quality standpoint, is the best in the world.
To the labs dreaming up the most advanced microchips.
It's very rare for people to go inside.
To the back rooms of New York's Diamond District.
What, you looking for the stupid guy here? They're all smart, don't worry about it.
Planet Money from NPR. We go to the story and take you along with us, wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back. You're listening to Car Talk with us, Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers, and we're here to discuss, of course, cars, car repair, and the new puzzler.
Yeah, I can hardly wait.
Well, I got an email the other day from...
You read your email now?
Not really.
Someone prints it out and hands it to you.
I got an email the other day from someone who severely castigated me for not having good puzzles every week.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the essence of it was...
unfair.
You've only got one puzzler a week to do. I mean, how could it be so lousy? I mean, what kind of a lazy bum could you be?
He's got a point, doesn't he?
He does.
Hit home, didn't it?
It did. And if you really wanted to convey that to me, Dad, you should have just called me on the phone.
Yeah.
We could have discussed
Email was not necessary.
No, I mean...
And that phony email name, you... Nah.
All right, here it is. Where do I start? Should I start at the beginning?
Yeah.
Sometime in the late 1930s, German and perhaps other countries, aeronautical engineers were working on a device. You're paying attention? All the details are embedded. All the essential information is embedded in this puzzler.
Yeah.
A device. And the device did the following. It took water vapor, which is one of the products of gasoline engine combustion, and would condense it into water and save it. You say, well, not such a big deal. Well, it would save it in an interesting way. it would save it in such a way that the amount of water saved would be exactly the equivalent in weight as the amount of fuel that the engine burned. So as the engine burned a pound of fuel or a kilogram of fuel,
you saved a pound
you
of
would
water.
save a pound of water and discard the rest. You got it?
That way, the plane always weighed the same.
Why would you want to do this? What would they...
I suppose one answer is, why not? Why would you want to do this?
That's the question. Now, if you think you know the answer...
That's good.
It's somewhat historic.
It's historic, yeah.
This was inspired, by the way, by a guy named... I should give him recognition because this may be completely
You better give him recognition.
Because
who are you going to blame next week?
In cyberspace, a guy by the name of Dale, I assume it's a guy, could be a woman.
Could be a woman.
Dale Margai sent the information from which I was able to obfuscate this puzzler. Anyway, if you think you know the answer or things are slow at work and you just feel like taking a guess, mail your answer to Puzzler Tower, Car Talk Plaza, Box 3500, Harvard Square, Cambridge.
Our fair city.
Ma 02238. Or you can email us your answer from our website, cartalk.msn.com. Just click on the Talk to Car Talk section. And, of course, if we choose your correct answer at random from amongst all the correct answers, you'll get one of our new Car Talk T-shirts featuring the slogan, celebrating 10 years of bad car advice. Now, if you want to call us, the number is 1-888-CAR-TALK. That's 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, I'm Mike from Vancouver, Washington.
Hey, Mike. What's happening?
I hope you guys can help me here. I'm not sure whether I've actually got a car problem or a wife problem.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Okay, I've got an 87 Jeep Cherokee, and we keep losing the radiator cap.
You keep losing the radiator cap? Is it blow off or?
Well, it's actually not the radiator cap. I ought to probably get to that first. It's this one. It's the 4-liter engine, and it doesn't really have a radiator cap. What it's got is like a
plastic
reservoir
bottle
back on the bulkhead.
Right. Yes.
And it's got a screw cap with a gasket on that.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, and we've kind of had a small, persistent leak for the last 6 months or so. You know, it's maybe a quart in a month.
Ah.
Well, anyway, I got real busy here this last few months. I got a project going on, and so I thought I got to get the wife out there and show her how to check the coolant, check the oil.
What's the project? What are you working on? A credenza or something? What are you doing?
Well, no, he's working on some
I want to know.
It's government work, and he can't discuss it.
It's important.
What I'm doing, I've got a sailboat, and we're actually planning a sailboat. No, it's built, but we're planning on doing a race from San Francisco to Hawaii next summer. And so that's kind of involved in a lot of my spare time, and so I'm not keeping up on the maintenance probably like I should.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Or going to work for that matter.
That's true, too.
Great.
So anyway, I thought I'd kind of put some of this maintenance stuff off on her. And so I showed her how to check the coolant and all that kind of stuff. And, and she was really good about it.
Yeah.
But about a month later, all of a sudden this radiator cap come up missing. So I thought, okay, well, she probably just didn't put it back on.
Yeah.
Went down, bought another one, put it on. A month later, the same thing happened.
Excellent.
I love it.
So I really questioned her. I said, are you absolutely sure you put that cap back on?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, of course.
Of course.
Okay, so my next theory was that, well, the only thing I could think would be blowing that off was if I had a head gasket. So I thought, okay, well, I'll take it down to my local mechanic and find out the bad news. So I take it down, and he calls me up a couple of hours later and says, no, you don't have a head gasket on that.
Good.
I guess they were going to flush the radiator, and he said the radiator came up really restricted. And he kind of theorized, well, maybe that was causing some back pressure, and maybe that was blowing the cap off. And I says, well, wouldn't it be getting hot? Because it doesn't even run. It runs at the cool end of the normal.
Yeah, it would be getting hot. And more importantly, the cap is designed, the cap has a pressure release in it. It's not going to blow the cap physically off the bottle. It's going to actually unseat the cap and blow off the steam.
That's kind of what I thought.
You were right.
Okay.
Trust me.
I think it's blowing off the cap.
I think you're blowing. Never mind. I think that she is merely not putting the cap on tightly enough.
And you think it's just vibrating
it's
itself
just
loose?
unscrewing itself. And that cap's going to be put on pretty tightly.
Okay.
But when you had it at the repair shop, they should have found, more importantly, the source of the leak. Where's the coolant going?
Well, and that, at that point, I was worried about head gaskets, so I don't think I even mentioned this.
Oh, yeah, I think you probably have a bad water pump.
Well, that changed that about a year and a half ago.
Oh, I don't think it's a water pump at all. Okay. I mean, you could have a loose hose clamp. There could be a number of places from which the cooling system could leak.
But they should find it, obviously.
And once you find that, then you can put the coolant in, plant that cap, and not worry about it like the rest of the world does. And not have to impose on your wife the responsibility of the care and feeding of your cooling system.
Okay.
But I think she's not putting it on tightly enough.
Okay.
Ask her to show you how tight she's putting it on, and then you grab it afterwards, and I bet you can turn the thing another quarter of a turn.
Okay, but you can't think of any other thing that would be causing pressure to blow that thing.
Well,
my
answer was going to be so brilliant. It involved Boyle's Law, Charles' Law,
and Charles Boyer's Law.
Charles Boyer's Law. And just the thing vibrating off is so boring. I mean,
I know, but often the truth is boring.
Well,
I know. What can you do?
I'm willing to accept it.
See you, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's happened again. You vaporized yet another hour listening to Car Talk. Our esteemed producer is Doug the Subway Fugitive, not a slave to fashion Berman. Our associate producer and Dean of the College of Automusicology is Ken Babyface Rogers. Our assistant producer is Catherine Crystal Ray. And our engineer
back from Nashville.
Yes, indeed. Whirlwind Tour. And our engineer is Jonathan Marston. And, of course, our ever seldom present technical, spiritual, and menu advisor is Mr. John Bugsy Lawler. Our public opinion pollster is Paul Murky of Murky Research, assisted by statistician Margin Overa. Our director of new product repair is Warren T. Myfoot. Our document security expert from the island of Jamaica is Euripides Upman. And our East Asian used car expert is Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Our evasive driving instructor is Vera Brupley. Our junkyard manager is Ricardo Dismontalbon. Our director of moral support is Hugh DeMann. The chairman of our underemployment study group is Art Majors. Back. And our Leo Tolstoy biographer is Warren Peace, author of Leo Tolstoy by Warren Peace. Our chief counsel from the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham & Howe is Hugh Lewis Dewey, known among the art history majors in Harvard Square as Huey Louie Dewey. Thanks so much for listening. We're Click and Clack the Tappet Brothers.
Be careful now. Your sister might be on the line.
Don't drive like my brother or my sister.
Don't drive like my brother or my sister either.
We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
And now, with a very important announcement, here is Car Talk Plaza's chief mechanic, Mr. Vinny Gumbaz. Vinny?
Okay, now, if you want a copy of this week's Car Talk show, which happens to be number 8, here's what you gotta do, all right?
So, Vinny, are you going to now give out the phone number that people...
No, I'm gonna reprogram my auto-exec bat file while I do my nails, you moron. The number is 1-888-CAR-JUNK.
And if people wanted to buy, like, Car Talk CDs and other things like that, would they call the same number, Vincent?
No, you call the city water department, you dope. Of course you call the same number, 888-CAR-JUNK, or you can get stuff through the online shameless commerce division of cartalk.msn.com.
Vinny, this sarcasm of yours is beginning to make me feel a little bit unwanted around here.
Oh, really now? Car Talk is a production of Dewey, Cheatham & Howe and WBUR in Boston.
And even though Noah Adams' voice cracks every time he hears us say it, this is NPR, National Public Radio.
Climate change is drying up some water supplies and making others undrinkable. That's why Here and Now Anytime is covering the hunt for fresh water. From a pipeline in the Great Lakes, to the science of desalination, to extreme recycling that turns sewage into clean drinking water. That's Here and Now Anytime, a podcast from NPR and WBUR.
If buying a home feels out of reach, you might have more options than you think.
You might be able to, especially if you have a little bit of money saved up and if you qualify for a low down payment mortgage, maybe even with some down payment assistance. It definitely could be a possibility for you.
Listen to the Life Kit podcast from NPR for first-time homebuyer tips.
Hey, it's A. Martinez. Even as the host of a news show, it can be hard to keep up with the headlines. That is why we make the Up First podcast. Every morning, in under 15 minutes, we cover 3 major stories with context and analysis from reporters around the world. So you can catch up on lo que está pasando while getting ready, making desayuno, or going to work. So listen to the Up First podcast from NPR.